speaker. We've got a special presentation. I'd like to call President Phil back up to the podium with also Diane Junis, and if we could get Coach Tanner to come up as well.
I actually have some prepared remarks today because some of you may remember that several years ago I introduced Coach Tanner and got myself into trouble because I didn't have anything written down. So I'm prepared today. Coach Tanner, on behalf of the Spring Valley Rotary Club, I want to personally thank you for finding the time to visit our club again. I realize you have many statewide demands in your position as USC Athletic Director, and I know of the many personal sacrifices you make to travel the state, often putting the demands of your job even before the demands of your family. However, I have determined that it's been a really good thing for you to speak at Spring Valley Rotary Club. You first spoke in October of 2010, and we were thrilled to continue the celebration of the 2010 College World Series title. And then the Gamecocks went on to win the NCAA Division I Baseball Championship for the second year in a row in 2011. You came back to speak in October of 2011, and in 2012, Gamecock Baseball posted a national runner-up finish. And then in 2012, you became the athletic director. Jillian Gibbons asked again, and you came back to speak to our club in October of 2012. Then in your first year as athletic director, you experienced a wealth of success. The football team turned in its highest national ranking in school history, women's basketball, men and women's golf, men and women's tennis, women's indoor and outdoor track and field, men's outdoor track and field, equestrian, men and women's swimming and diving, softball and baseball all reached the NCAA postseason. Then, in May of 2013, you were inducted into the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame. So here it is, July of 2014, and I want to thank you for being here with us today, but I already know that 2015 is going to be a great year for you. All kidding aside, my job today is to present you with a check for $1,000 for your foundation. We've awarded the Ray Tanner Foundation one of our community grants this year, having been blessed with our best nut sale ever thanks to the hard work of every Rotarian in this room. We are again blessed to see our contributions put to work in our community by dozens of local nonprofits. The Ray Tanner Foundation has assisted many local organizations who care for seriously ill children, struggling families, and the homeless. Coach Tanner, thank you for your leadership in our community. Columbia is a better place because you're here.
Well, I think Diane's about covered everything with Coach Tanner. You all know him. Two-time national champion, 3 times National Coach of the Year. I would like to mention, as Diane referenced, he's celebrating his 2nd year this week as the athletic director. Now, I can tell you, whatever he does up here today, it won't be as hard. He's already accomplished that today. This morning, Kieran, his wife, had to leave for an early morning meeting, and he had to get off Maggie, who's 8, Luke, who's 8, and Gracie, who's 11. Each of them were going in different directions to different camps, and Coach had to orchestrate all of that. So that's probably as tough a duty as he's going to get today. But I would like to mention, as Diane's already referenced as well, he does have a 2:15 appointment, so don't hold your questions. He'll give you plenty of time, but he's going to have to scoot out right after his talk today. So, Coach, once again, we thank you for making this a priority.
audience today. God bless you. God bless you. I have no interest in being a mom. And whatever the salary is for being a mom, you're underpaid, whatever it is. I don't have to do that duty too often, but today was one of them. And I was sweating it. I didn't sleep good last night knowing that, they had to be at camp on time. My wife was leaving at 7 a.m. I had to get them going, 3 different camps. And I'm thinking, I'll probably not get this done successfully. But lo and behold, we pulled it off, and I called her later, I said, everything is great. So they know that when I'm there, they have to do a little bit more, so they take that on. But I'll tell you, this morning, I had the television on, and the news was on, and they did a little blurb on sports on SEC Media Days, and my middle child, Maggie, she's the talkative one in the morning. The other two, they come in slow when they wake up. But she's talkative, and a football player ran across the screen, and she's 8 now. And the last 2 years, we've been to the bowl games as athletic director, which, quite honestly, is a lot of fun. Everybody else is working, and we just pretend to be working. And she said, Dad, are we going to a bowl game again this year? I said, I hope so. I said, I hope we get a chance to go to a bowl game. She said, you know what? She said, I think this is the year of the Super Bowl. And I looked at her like, do I need to explain this? And I decided, nah, we'll just go with it. So maybe the game collector headed to the Super Bowl. I don't know. I will share a couple of things with you. You might have seen a couple of blurbs. On August 27th, the night before we played Texas A&M, ESPN will do one of those story programs that will feature Coach Spurrier. And the name of it is The Believer. And I haven't seen the trailer on that, but I understand that the Believer has something to do with his father, who was a minister. So I don't know how all that's going to come together, but we'll see. But I'll tell you a quick story on that piece that they're doing. I don't know if it's an hour show or an hour and a half, but is it an hour and a half? So they followed him around. They did all kinds of interviews. They met with former players. They came on campus. They followed him vacation. They did a lot of different things in the past probably 6 or 9 months. So one day I get a call, and they said, we're set up in the stadium over in the Cruz Auditorium in the corner. We wonder if you come up cover and do an interview about Coach Spurrier. I said, well, I'd love to, but my affiliation is not quite as deep as a lot of other people. They go, don't worry about it. You may say something that we can put on television. And I'm thinking, they're wanting me to say something that I don't want on television. So I go over there, and it's, if you've been to the Cruz Auditorium, there's a little lobby there. It's kind of dark in the corner. They had their TV lights set up and a chair, and 2 or 3 guys kind of lingering in the dark almost. And the guy greeted me. He said, sit down right here. We'll ask you a few questions, and you'll be on your way. So I sat down, and these 2 guys started asking me questions. And couldn't see them real good. They were kind of right behind the lights, and it was dark. And just asked me about Coach Spurrier, and just wanted to see what my reaction was to certain questions. So about halfway through the interview, I'm thinking, I know that voice. Who is that voice? It was Kenny Chesney. Well, I'm done at that point. I'm like, I can't answer another question. So finally the thing ends, and I go, why are you doing this? He said, because I like to do it. And if you saw in the release, he co-produced an SEC story for Coach Spurrier. And then I looked to see the other ones that he'd been involved in. This was the one that he really took interest in, because he and Coach Spurrier, I think, became friends back in 2007. So I imagine it'll be a very entertaining piece that we'll get to see on the eve of Texas A&M coming to town, which you might have seen the release today. We've been picked to win the East. So hopefully we get a chance to play Alabama in Atlanta. If Alabama wins the West, I don't know. But Coach Saban is supposed to be speaking today at SEC Media Day, so I'm anxious to see if he has any rebuttal to what Coach Spurrier set him up to the other day. You gotta love Coach Spurrier. I got a call from a friend of mine in Birmingham who's in the premium service business, and he's always in Birmingham when the coaches come with him and so forth, and he calls him, he says, you can't believe, this guy comes to town, it's like a rock star, comes to Birmingham. He says the cameras light up, all the interviews, because he doesn't do coach speak. He does Steve Spurrier speak. And the rest of us, in my past, we try to do coach speak to stay out of trouble. He doesn't worry about getting in any trouble. So it's great, but he's been a wonderful run for us. 33, 42 wins in the last 4 years, 33 in the last 3. We finished 4th this past year. Our football program's in great shape. I saw we did not have anybody on the first team picked as a SEC first team. We had, I believe, Mike Davis on the second team and a couple of our offensive linemen on the second team. A.J. Can and Corey Robinson was the other one. So that's a good sign when you start to see offensive line get picked. We're beefed up across the line pretty good. So hopefully we'll have a great year. Dylan Thompson was on the Good Works team. I think 12 of the 14 schools have a representative on the Good Works team. And if you had to pick a young man to be a leader or quarterback of your football team, we're in great hands. Now, as many of you know, Dylan has played some in the past, but he hasn't been a regular, hasn't been a starter. So this is his last year. So this is his first year as a starter and his last year as a starter. But I had a great experience with Dylan this past spring. He calls me in the fall, late fall. He calls me one day on my cell phone and he says, Coach, I need to speak to you about an issue. And I'm thinking, Dylan Thompson, they can't be an issue with Dylan Thompson. The guy's never done anything wrong in his life. He said, I want to be your intern this spring. I said, you want to do what? He said, I want to be your intern, athletic director's intern. I said, what are you talking about? He said, I need an internship to graduate. He said, I finished all my coursework. All I need is an internship. He said, I'll work 40 hours a week. I said, and you're not going to get paid? He said, no, it's course credit. I said, you're hired. Come on board. So he was with us for the entire spring. What a joy. What a fantastic young man. I took him to meetings. I made him speak on a lot of occasions where I was supposed to speak. But then I brought him, and who wants to hear me when you got Dylan Thompson? So let him do it. He was a participant in a number of my meetings. So it was a true joy to have him participate. And a fantastic young man he is. I'll tell you a line that I heard him say. One day, some people came into the office to visit. And of course, I introduced Dylan, and he visited with him for a few minutes, and as the people were leaving, the lady turned to Dylan. She said, your parents must be awfully proud of you. And he looked, and he said, I'm awfully proud of my parents. And I'm thinking, I've never heard a kid say that about his parents. Certainly mine don't say that. So, a couple other things. There's a celebrity softball game on Saturday at the Carolina Softball Stadium at 6 p.m. I'm not playing, so I'm not part of the celebrity, but I am one of the coaches. I'm coaching against Coach Staley. She has a foundation called Inner Soul where she raises money and provides shoes for those in need or children and people who have that necessity. So we're having a celebrity softball game, and we had a draft the other day. And she had the first pick, so she picked our softball coach. So I get the next 2 picks. I picked Brian Busher and Scott Wingo. I was going for the double play combination. Then she picks Sheriff Leon Lott, and then she continues to pick all the politicians and all the people of power. I continued to pick all the people with talent. So I think I've got a chance to win. And I finally said, do we have a run rule in this game? Because I like my team a whole lot. She said, yeah, but you might not get through the game with all the political favors that I'm going to get. So I could be ousted. I don't know. But Coach Stanley's done a wonderful job. What a true ambassador for our program. She's been very successful for at least 3 years now, and maybe she would forgive me for saying this, but the best is yet to come. She has lined up a group of recruits, not only that are on campus now, that will be here in the future. One of my big jobs was to make sure she didn't leave on my first year on the job when Ohio State called her. So that was my first major test, and we were able to survive that one. And as I told her the other day, I said, I'm not worried about you leaving anymore. She said, I always need for you to worry about me leaving. I said, I'm not worried about it. You know why? She said, why? I I said, because your team's too good. Coaches don't lead good teams. So let's keep our fingers crossed there. SEC Network, how many of you guys got the SEC Network?
No. Tell us.
Yeah, well, not too many, because who has AT&T Uverse?
Right here.
Well, you're hooked up. AT&T Uverse, you're on board.
Okay.
If you have Dish, you're on board. If you have Cox Television, you're on board. If you have Google Fiber, you're on board. If you have Time Warner, you're not on board. If you have Comcast, you're not on board. So that's where we are. So we're talking about 45 more football games this fall. 3 every Saturday. 12, 4, and 7. And we're the first telecast, first football game, I should say, on the new network Thursday night, August 28th. So if you're not in Williams-Brice Stadium, you will not be able to watch the game unless you have one of those distributors. So you might need to make some noise here in the next few weeks if you don't have a ticket, because that's where we're headed. The network is really great for the Southeastern Conference. Not only are we talking about football, but we're going to have 75 women's basketball games. We don't even know how many baseball games we're going to be on. Numerous. And all the other sports, women's soccer, women's volleyball. It's a 24/7 network. It's just like ESPN. So if you go to your dial now and you say you got ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, ESPN News, now you're going to add SEC on ESPN. But we'll be all about the 14 schools of the Southeastern Conference. So we stand to continue to grow in a lot of areas, and we're excited about this initiative. We've had to upgrade what we do internally, because not only are we going to have 450 live telecasts this year on the SEC network, we're going to have 550 on digital. So if you ever remember going to the website and watching a streaming video, that's been upgraded. It'll be television quality. It'll be television quality and produced ESPN quality. Even though it might not be on television, if you're looking at it on the digital, you'll think it's on television. That's the quality of production. And here's why. If let's say that there's a baseball game on next spring from Alabama. Alabama and Auburn are playing. But we have a softball game going on at our place on digital, and one of our young women is having a great day or pitching a no-hitter. They can switch on that broadcast. If that baseball game is not exciting, they can say, we're going to switch to Columbia, South Carolina, where Julie Surratt is pitching a no-hitter for the Gamecocks. And it'll just be television again. So there's a lot going on in the SEC network, and we're hoping that our footprint is flooded here before long. It's going to be a profitable situation for the 14 schools in the SEC. But the coverage and the distribution is going to be unsurpassed. I think right now we're up to maybe 27 million subscribers. And hopefully with Time Warner getting on board, maybe Direct getting on board, and Comcast will probably exceed 75 million. So it's not just the SEC in the conference, but it's SEC on a national stage. So it's exciting. So when you think about so many football teams going to bowl games, so many baseball teams, so many women's basketball teams, so many golf teams, tennis teams, it's the power of the Southeastern Conference. It's how good the conference is. I'll share one thing with you, and we talked about our baseball success briefly. Vanderbilt won the national championship this year in baseball. You probably saw a little bit on television. Who knows where they finished in the SEC?
About third or fourth.
Third, fourth?
Sixth.
They finished sixth in the SEC and won a national championship. They won one game in the SEC tournament. I never won either, so I understand that. One year we finished fifth, and we finished third in Omaha. And one of my SIDs said, this is a great story, we're going to put this out. I go, no, we're not putting that out. People forgot we finished fifth. What are you going to remind them for? Let's just say we finished third in the country. One thing, before I open this up for questions, I want to share with you, which is two things maybe, but one thing I'm extremely proud of. We all understand that occasionally, maybe more so than on occasion, we have situations that occur in collegiate athletics that are not positive, and they tend to get reported. Actually, Ron Marsh's column this morning, he noted some situations at numerous schools throughout the conference that had situations where players had been in trouble or suspended or even kicked off the team. We get a lot of publicity, especially in Columbia, South Carolina, with the state newspaper and the social media, because we don't compete with professional sports. But sometimes even the greatest news is lost. And we're about to do a release internally that you might have seen parts of this, but I want to share this with you. For the 7th consecutive year, our first-year student athletes, first year that they arrive at the university, whether they're a freshman or a junior college transfer and they're coming in for the first time, 7 years in a row, we have led the SEC in academic honor roll. That's 3-0 for the fall and spring, for 7 straight years. Now, I got a breakdown here. I just told you about first-year student athletes. Then if you break it down to fall student athletes, every one of them, the entire student athlete body, the winter and the spring, that's a total of 336 for us on academic honor roll. That's also number 1 in the SEC. We were number 1 in every category except the spring. We were number 2 in the spring, as far as the highest number in the spring. But fall, spring, winter, and fall, spring, winter, first year, we were number 1. And it's a real tribute to our student athletes. We've got 528 student athletes. We got an academic enrichment program headed up by Maria Hickman. We have 12 full-time people over there. And sometimes it gets lost on these young men and young women who are here all the time. You know, sports used to be during the academic year, now it's 11 months a year. Our student athletes are on campus about 11 months a year now. And they're training, and they're working, they're going to school. And they're also successful in the classroom. So a lot of great things are happening on that side as well that sometimes doesn't get as much attention as it should. But they're achieving at a high level. The last thing I want to share with you is this. I took off that baseball hat and I put on that financial hat a couple of years ago, so it's a whole different world. I can tell you about my job in a lot of different areas, and certainly we'll have some time for some questions. But we all have budgets. There's 14 schools in the SEC. And we're all trying to generate revenue. And we're all trying to invest in our student athletes, resources and facilities, the opportunity to be successful academically and athletically. It is a business in so many ways. Now, my philosophy as a student athletes first is coaches second, and then there's the rest of us that are providing services and support to enable that first 2 groups of people to be successful. So I take over, we're 84, 85 million in revenue. We hope to hit 94 million by next year. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, I picked up the USA Today, and there it is. University of South Carolina, 25th in the country in amount of revenue generated. I think that's pretty good. You know, just first glance, I go, that's pretty good. So then I look 24, 23, and I go back to the top. There were 9 SEC schools in front of us. Now I'm thinking, that's 10th. Who wants to finish 10th? So we don't want to finish where our dollars are. So that's the key, is to maximize the opportunity to be successful. As you would probably guess, Alabama is at the top by far. They're generating $150 million a year or so. And that's more to invest in their student athletes. And so by dollars, we put the money back in. We're not sitting on any cash. We're building buildings, we're building facilities, we're building new tracks, we're building all kinds of things right now to enhance the opportunities. But we're challenged. We are challenged in a great way. And one day a week, I'm a development person. I'm on the fundraising circuit 1 day a week. And one reason I'm out there, I enjoy it, I like it. But when I took the job, I asked the question, how many and how often do other athletic directors in the conference get involved in fundraising? It wasn't that much. So I said, okay, I'm going to lead the pack in that area. So I go out 1 day a week, and we have some generous donors, and we have improved our facilities in a big way. We have to continue to do that. It's so much different now than it was 10 years ago. When I came here in the summer of '96, the culture and the mindset had to change. We had to get in a different position to compete at a high level. And Dr. Mike McGee, Eric Hyman before me, both of those gentlemen opportunities. And now I'm carrying that torch. And we're doing everything we can to have an opportunity to be successful. I firmly believe we have 21 sports now. Track counts 5 times because it's indoor, outdoor, men and women, cross country. So we have 16 head coaches because swimming and diving has men and women. I truly believe that out of our sports, there's 4 or 5 sports that can win national championships. Baseball's done it. Coach Staley is in the conversation. Football finished 4th last year. Our men's and women's golf team, very successful. Our women's golf program has been in a national championship 5 consecutive years. Our men, the last 2. Women's soccer, Shelley Smith. We have some opportunities to continue to elevate our program. And many of you have been in this area for a long time, and this is my 18th year. And I remember when I used to go out and play early in my career, I don't think we got mentioned in the same conversation as LSU and the Gators, and Tennessee, and Alabama. And now we're in that conversation in a strong way. So we're in a good place. We got to sustain it. We have an opportunity to do great things. We have some wonderful coaches, and I'm excited to be in this position. I love University in Columbia, and I always thought that I would end up in administration after my coaching days were over. I didn't know when they were going to be over. My team was pretty good, so I was thinking not quite ready. But when the call came, and Coach Holbrook was ready to take over. By the way, who did a magnificent job this year with 44 wins with a team that was injured throughout. I think he had the same lineup on the field about 9 times this year. His best lineup. He was really, really hurt. I actually called him a couple of times and said, "You've got a bad team." And I always would call after he won. I never did that after he lost. But a couple of times he would win. I go, "You've got a bad team out there," because he had so many starters hurt. But we're in good shape there. By the way, our baseball stadium, one publication was ranked the best college facility in the country. So we're awfully proud of a lot of things here, and the momentum, the enthusiasm. We got to keep it going. We're selling football tickets, and we're trying to stay excited. And you're tired of hearing me talk about it. He's got a question already.
Okay, speaking of stadiums, I just have one recommendation. Since the people who rent those stupid little seats that bolt down in the stadium, they're wider than the seat. So my 4 tickets, I'm squished to death because these people have rentals and these. So every game for my family is like a sold-out game, and I don't want to go in there anymore. And I know it generates revenue, but it's made the stadium miserable. The seats ought to not go past their geographical space.
I've never heard that, but you're probably saying that seat's 19 inches, but our location's only about 17.
And it's awful. I mean, every game for me is a sold-out game. And I don't have anybody sitting there, but those stupid seats are bolted down and invading my space.
I will promise you before I get back to campus that call will be made.
Yeah.
Anything going on with these student athletes forming unions?
Well, Northwestern tried to do that, and but just let me tell you that should that actually happen at Northwestern, that's not a national thing. That's only for the private schools. We're a public school, so it would not apply. But to go into your governance conversation a little bit, are things going to change? Probably so. There's going to be some different ramifications. Probably we'll find out. The 5 conferences, the Big 5, will probably have some different rules by the end of August. The autonomy is going to kick in. What will it mean financially? A young man or young woman may have the opportunity for cost of attendance versus a full scholarship. In other words, they'll get a full scholarship plus cost of attendance, which would be additional. We don't know how much, maybe $3,000. So there's going to be some financial pressure without question, on athletic departments to provide that. But that's kind of where we're going. Healthcare can be different. A lot of people are really pushing a scholarship forever, which we kind of do that anyway. I mean, our young men and young women who leave school for one reason or another, they go into professional ranks or have a hardship. If they come back, we provide financial assistance for them to finish. So we do a lot of those things. Not all schools do, but it may become a mandate. So the governance structure for college athletics is probably going to be a little bit different. I'm a little bit of an old school guy. I don't think our model is completely broken. We're graduating student athletes. 98% of them go into the workforce. They don't go into professional ranks. It's okay to dream, but the reality is less than 2% play professionally, men or women. So the model I mean, most of us, I was a partial scholarship guy, most of us had debt when we got out. These athletes have very little debt now when they get out, and they get a degree, and we provide summer school, we provide counseling, we provide nutrition, we have 2 full-time nutritionists on staff. We have a nutrition station in our football complex. We refuel after we work out. When I played, we didn't refuel, you towed off and went home. So we do so much for them now, but it's going to continue to grow, it does appear.
Right. Question, will they ever have more than 17 baseball scholarships?
Well, I wish we had 17.
You don't?
Our scholarship limit for baseball is 11.7.
Wow.
It's very, very low. I don't think that'll ever change. If you remember, football used to be 95, now they're 85. Because of gender equity in Title IX. It was never, these laws were passed to make sure that women athletes were treated fairly. I'm all for that. I have 2 daughters. But we didn't have a sport to offset football. So we kind of banged away at the men's sport. It was kind of almost like reverse discrimination. We take away from the men, and we try to make it work out. But our women's basketball team, they do everything that the men do. They take the same trips, same charters. Nothing is different. There's no difference in meal money or hotels or anything. So their equity does exist. But because so many laws, for instance, we have I'm almost exact when I say this, 55% women on our campus, 45% men. Therefore, by the federal government, you have to have 55% participation in athletics from the women's side.
Does that mean the girls have 11.7 then?
In softball, they have 13.
Why?
To balance out that
Balance?
softball.
Okay.
For instance, women's golf has 8, men's golf has 4.5.
55.
Anybody have a volleyball player in here? Get your girls playing volleyball. They got 12 full scholarships, and they only play 6 at a time. So it's get them into volleyball. Where's my daughter this week? She's in volleyball camp. So it's all good, and it's great. But that's the men. The men are not going to get any more scholarships. We added beach volleyball last year. That's 20 additional women. And I love the sport. It's an emerging sport. It's going to be an NCAA sport in 16. That has my fingerprints on it. But we can't add a men's sport. Now I can add a women's sport. I can't add a men's sport because the numbers will not be consistent. That's a great sport, by the way. If you get a chance to go next spring, wonderful sport. Yes, sir.
2 quick questions. Some of us sit up in the zone, and it's become such a high demand. Is there any future plans of it, increasing the premium seating? And then part number 2 is women's basketball. I feel like needs reserved parking. It'd be nice to have some type of reserved parking for season ticket holders.
I'll answer your second question first because I think we're going to have to go in that direction. I think that sort of becomes demand. It never was that way before, but I think next to our last game, we had 10,000 in our women's game. We had 12,500 in the last game when we clinched against Georgia. So things do change. And the first question you talked about, the zone, that's where your tickets are.
Right.
By the way, you're going to love that when you go in there on August 28th. We've done some upgrades in there. You'll have a wall of TVs on one end, a wall of TVs on the other. We're doing a lot of cosmetic work in there, new carpets. Don't spill anything. So, are we going to do more premium areas? We're just going to increase the cost. No, just kidding. No, I used to do batting averages. Now I have to figure budgets. But here's the thing. There's an opportunity going forward. There's a trend in college football, and we're doing some feasibility studies right now. The football will be housed possibly across the street going forward. They'll be across the street where we're building practice fields in the indoor. That may give us some opportunity to do some more premium seating. You may say, why is our budget not bigger than it is? Because we've got a pretty prominent program. We have the least premium seating of anybody in the SEC except Vanderbilt. They have none. So we're next with 15 suites in the zone, a couple club areas, but we need the whole east side done. I hope that I have an opportunity to do that on my watch, because you know what? The demand is tremendous. You might not sell out a stadium at 75,000, but you'll sell out premium seating. It's unbelievable. people are clamoring to get premium seating. So I hope that we can do that. But we did invest in the zone this summer, and the work's going on right now. So you'll enjoy I think there's a block of 6 TVs where you can do our game and other games, and it's been upgraded. So I'd really love to add premium seating. That would certainly help us. It'd help our bottom line. Yes, ma'am.
Let's go back to baseball for a second. You have that beautiful, beautiful stadium, and I'm a huge fan, and I'm also a huge Blowfish fan. And explain to me why you can't rent that stadium out or get more revenue from using that more than just our home game?
Well, we've never been approached, but they probably wouldn't be willing to pay the cost to operate that stadium. You know, we sell about 6,000 season tickets in baseball, and the Blowfish is that's more of a walk-up crowd. It's not a season ticket crowd. And we also do camps throughout the summer, and we host a lot of AAU events in the summertime. That's recruiting. Almost every weekend there's an AAU event that is played at Carolina Stadium. So
I didn't realize it was being used that much because it's so nice, and
it is being used quite a bit. And we believe it or not, we've rented out some, not the field. The AAU teams do have to pay, but we rent out the concourse. Believe it or not, we've had weddings on our concourse. We've had concerts. We've had receptions underneath the overhang. So we rent that out on occasion too. Well, pretty regularly, and it's grown in popularity.
I wondered if you wanted to mention men's basketball announcement that came out yesterday about
Diane, very good.
8K in 8 days.
8K in 8 days.
What a great
So
marketing idea.
it starts on the 22nd. What day are we on? What day are we? 17th. On the 22nd, 8K in 8 days, we have this men's basketball initiative with Coach Martin and his players. They're doing an event every single day. They're going somewhere, participating, doing something in the community. It's all about trying to get 8,000 people, 8,000 season tickets. So it's all centered around 8. And Coach Martin, his enthusiasm, his passion for this job is as good as any coach that we got. He's embraced his community as great as he possibly could, and he continues to grow that program, and I think we're going to be very successful. We increased our attendance last year at men's basketball by 7%. And, you know, some people would say you don't increase unless you win at a pretty good rate. We increased, and it was not a great year, but I'm confident that we're going to get better. So thank you for mentioning that. Hopefully we can end up doing 8,000 season tickets. And
Why don't you throw the women in there too?
well, the women are rolling. They're getting ready to kick off an initiative with ONE. So they're getting ready to do their own initiative. But that's very exciting. I went out to California where they were in the Sweet 16, and we played Duke, by the way, on the road this year. We're playing Connecticut on the road too. So Coach Staley's like, bring them on. And, go get them. Go get them. Yes, sir.
With this new SEC network, will some of the remote locations like Cox Corner still be able to get the broadcast of the game?
That's a great question, and I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to go out on a limb that you will have it. I heard a conversation this morning, I was a part of a conversation this morning that gave me confidence that all of us would have it. When I say all of us, all of our venues, that's part of our venue, and our student body, regardless of what happens going forward with our local cable providers, that we will be hooked in. Now, that doesn't mean that you can stay in the parking lot the whole time. We need for you to come in the game. But I think that you'll be able to get it out there, even as it exists currently.
So it makes no sense to me that as a Time Warner subscriber, I can get the Big Ten network, but I can't get the SEC network. So who is somebody negotiating? I mean, will it really help if I call Time Warner?
Yes. It would help if you made a phone call. There's no question about it. Those decisions are made by market demand, as you know. And is there negotiation going on? Absolutely. The ESPN, Justin Conley and his staff in Bristol, they will also be located in Charlotte, by the way. The SEC network is taken over in Charlotte at the ESPNU building in Valentine. And so they're negotiating as we speak. So we're optimistic and we're confident, and we'll see where it goes. But it's going to be, eventually it'll be profitable for the SEC. But that was only part of the initiative. It was part of, being in the SEC and the exposure. And, we played in 7 straight national championships in baseball. How about football? We won 5 out of 6 or 6 out of the last 7. It's a great conference. And the good thing about being in the SEC, we compete like the Dickens against each other. But when we get in that meeting together, we band together. Because we know about the Big Ten, we know about the ACC, we know about the Big 12, and we know about the Pac-12, and we do everything we can as a league to keep the edge. That any given year, one of our teams will be good enough to win the whole thing. So we make each other better and we support each other. And that's what being a great team is all about. Together, everyone accomplishes more. And we live by that motto. And Phil, you're standing up here, so I do want to say I appreciate the opportunity to come back and visit with you. Very, very touched by the donation today. And you can rest assured that 100% of that check will stay right here in the Midlands and will go back out into our community to help agencies and people that need the help the most. Thank you very much for allowing me to do this.